Hello, my name is Matt Whitman. This is a podcast called the 10-Minute Bible Hour. It's a daily program where we work through the book of Matthew just a little bit every day. Another thing I'd like to tell you is that I am the proud owner of a Nintendo Switch, but my son is the proud regular user of said Nintendo Switch. And one of the games I wanted to buy for him was Super Smash Brothers because I've always enjoyed playing that in previous iterations on more primitive expressions of Nintendo consoles. And so we got it, we started playing together, and I had to take it real easy on him because I'm not terrible at Smash Brothers. And one of the characters I like to use is Ganondorf, and I got a couple simple little combos that I use that just work and work and work. I can make the big guy go fast, and that's tough for people. Well, my son decided that he was going to start using Ganondorf, and he talked with a friend whose main character is Ganondorf, and now when we fight, I'm having all kinds of trouble beating him because he identified my combos and added a combo or two to it, and I haven't figured out how to handle him yet. Combos are the key. That boy's combos are going to be the death of me. Likewise, and I mean barely likewise, Jesus, throughout the Gospel of Matthew, keeps using this two-hit combo to fend off all of these tests that get thrown at him. Have you noticed the pattern? Every time somebody comes at him and tries to tempt him, tries to trip him up, tries to mess with his head, get him to say something stupid, get him to break character or violate his principles, he's got this 1-2 punch. Punch number one is rely on his relationship with his father. Ow, accidentally hit my desk. I was making the punch gesture for no reason. Like, I'm here alone. It's not even like you can see it. It was just involuntary. And I hit my elbow right on the edge of the desk. It was terrible. And it really stings. I'm getting better. I'm going to power through. And so part one of the two-hit combo of Jesus is to depend on his relationship with his Father. And part two of the two-hit combo is to go to Scripture and point to that. The most famous example we get of this is, come on, you already know where I'm going. It's Matthew chapter 4. It's the temptation in the wilderness. This is before Jesus goes public, and I'm just going to jog your memory, even though I know you all got this one down. So Matthew 4:1, then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry, and the tempter came to him and said, "If you're the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." Jesus answered, "It's written, man doesn't live by bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." So you can get God and Bible right there. Boom, boom, 1-2 combo. Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you're the Son of God," he said, "throw yourself down, for it's written, he'll command his angels concerning you, and they'll lift you up in their hands so that you won't strike your foot against a stone." And I cannot read that text without acknowledging that the devil is intentionally misquoting the Bible there. I broke all of that down in the episode where we covered this way back in the day. But verse 7, Jesus answered him, "It's also written, don't put the Lord your God to the test." Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain. Oh, well, once again, two-hit combo, Bible, God, see what's happening. The devil takes him to a high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. "All this I give you," he said, "if you'll bow down and worship me." And Jesus said to him, "Away from me, Satan, for it's written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only." Then the devil left him and angels came and attended him. He leans into the character of and his relationship with God the Father, and he points to the text, and that is how he wards off the attack of the best attacker that was ever going to attack him. He passes the test of the devil using that two-hit combo, just again and again, just mashing those same two buttons. And as we discussed way back in the day when we covered those passages, he's not just passing one unique test of the devil, who just came and pestered him a little bit because he's Jesus. He's passing the test that you failed, that I failed, that every human ever has failed. The test that cuts to the level of our insecurities, our weaknesses, our frailty, our humanity, our brokenness, our locked-in-time temporality, our lust for power, our love of self. All of that kind of stuff is a test that gets thrown at us all the time, and we can't pass it because we're fallible. We're broken. Some of us are maybe nicer and better behaved and have more restraint than others, but we're all in the same boat on this one. We have failed the test. Jesus passes the test. Fast forward all the way to Matthew chapter 22, where we've been hanging out, and what we see is another series of tests. Interestingly, there are 3 of them. Interestingly, they all invoke spiritual language, something that kind of points to the Bible or opportunity. And Jesus fends off these 3 tests, those 3 tests being number 1, should we pay taxes to Caesar? Number 2, levirate marriage, and the lady was married to 7 different guys and they kept dying, and who's she going to be married to after the resurrection? And number 3, our friend Glenn's, I think, very reasonable question, what's the greatest commandment in the law? All 3 of these are tests, and notice that Jesus goes right back to the old playbook. Boom, boom. Two-hit combo. Hit number one, dependence on his father. Hit number two goes right to the text. Let's just break it down. Test number one, they come and ask the question about taxes. But Jesus, knowing their evil intent, verse 18 said, "You hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin used for paying the tax." They bring in the coin. He says, "Whose portrait is on this and whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then he said to them, "Give to Caesar's what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." And in that last half sentence of his answer, there's your two-hit combo. He overtly points to the authority of and implicitly his relationship with God the Father, and he's pointing to Scripture. And you might be like, wait, what's that verse? Give to God what is God. But remember, we talked about this. Even the original language is identical in pointing to the idea of image being the sort of image that is described all the way back in Genesis chapter 1, somewhere in here. I know I can find it because it's going to be at the end of all the creation stuff because it just goes in order. There we go. Verse 27, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." It's subtle, but the two-hit combo is there, and the two-hit combo was delivered and landed in a way that would make sense to the original audience, and apparently that two-hit combo landed firmly because verse 22, when they heard this, they were amazed, so they left him and went away. So for the second time now, Jesus has been subjected to 3 tests, and for the second time now, he has passed the first of the 3 tests. The first round of tests entirely in private, the second round of tests entirely in public. Second test comes along. This is the one with the Sadducees, and they ask all this stuff about levirate marriage and wives and getting remarried in heaven. Now it's all going to work. Jesus replied, "You are in error because you do not know the Scriptures or the power of God." Boom, there's both parts of the two-hit combo right there. I mean, that's his thing, God and the Scriptures. At the resurrection, people will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They'll be like the angels in heaven, and now we get back toward Bible. But about the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what God said to you? This is a reference to Exodus 3:6, as we discussed. "I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living." This is dripping with the two-hit combo. And again, maybe you or I, as a modern audience member with a Western mind, would look at that and be like, I don't know, did that really work? I mean, did the two-hit combo land? Well, he wasn't talking to you and me first and foremost. He was talking to the original audience, and apparently it did, because the anecdote wraps up in verse 33 with, "When the crowds heard this, they were astonished at his teaching." Now he's past test number 2, on to test number 3. Glenn, the great expert in the law, walks up and says, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commands." You know what I'm going to say at this point, but boom, it's a two-hit combo. Once again, God is all over it. The relationship with the Father, the authority of the Father is all over it. And then there's references to Deuteronomy 6:5, which we're going to talk about next time around, and Leviticus 19:18, which we're also going to talk about next time around. He goes God the Father, he goes Bible, and he defeats the 3 tests, this time in front of everyone, as well as he did last time in front of only the devil, who is there to look on. So what we see coming out of this second threefold test that Jesus passes is kind of the missing link in how he got tested by the devil in the first place. Because that all happened in private, which means that he wasn't having to pass the test of public scrutiny and the Twitter mob and angry online posts and the crowd pressing in around him and booing him and loudly and violently disagreeing with what he thought, and physical punishment even because they disagree so much. But he's getting the first fruits of that kind of test here, and he's going to solidify his passing of that test in just a few pages when the crowd does turn on him and all those things I just said happen exactly as I was just describing. I don't know about you, but I don't think I would have passed any of these tests, let alone all of them. And I think maybe the most difficult for me, even more difficult than power or hunger, would be the opinions of all those fancy, important people, and having to think on my feet and feeling pressure to just appease people and find some sort of common ground, even if it's nonsensical, just to make the tension go away and make it feel better, because if I don't, this is going to escalate. Somebody might get hurt. I might be the one who will get hurt. I'm not sure I could pass that test. Jesus passes it with flying colors, and maybe very few people in the audience realized how good his answer was, but at least it looks like one guy got it. Maybe Matthew wants us to look at this and be like, dang, the first time we see a threefold test Jesus has to pass is straight from the devil. The second time, well, is this also straight from the devil? Maybe that's a connection we're supposed to make. Maybe not. Maybe the idea here is that testing can come from this divine, supernatural place, or it can come from something that looks much more pedestrian and mundane, like just people's opinions and the breezes of the shared attitudes that drive so much of what we do. But whatever you make of that, in the same way that I know dang well what the two-hit combo is that my son is using to defeat me at Smash Brothers all the time, so at this point it should be crystal clear and very evident to us what the two-hit combo is that Jesus is using to overcome these tests and these challenges himself. And let me tiptoe into a place we don't go very often here, and that is the what do we do with it part, but maybe there's an example here for what people who bend the knee to Jesus and decide that they want to be kingdom citizens should do in regard to the challenges and tests that we face throughout our lives as well. Thank you for indulging me on that. I'm Matt. This is the 10 Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.